I'm honored today to have Zhong, Jing, Fang with us and to share with us her journey as a ballerina, as a mom, as a choreographer, and just you're a very inspiring person. So Camille and I are just really honored to speak with you today and to hear about your story and how you've been doing during this interesting time in history with this pandemic and everything else. So first, how was it when you started? You began in Shanghai at the ballet school there, is that correct?
Yes. So when I was age 9, my mom saw the newspaper that Shanghai Ballet School was auditioning for ballet dancers. Though I didn't have any ideas what ballet dancers are like. I know a little bit of dance from watching on TV. So I told my mom I would like to audition. So my parents took me to the Shanghai Ballet School, and out of 2,000 students were auditioning, I got into the school. They only took 18 students. So I was very lucky. And that was beginning of my journey to study ballet.
Yes. And was the training there very strict?
Yes, it was very strict.
Right? Vaganova-based training?
Yes, Vaganova. We basically had very strict schedule. We started every morning, actually 6:30 every morning to have a stretch class before the breakfast. Then we have breakfast. Then at 8 o'clock, we will have ballet training class, sometimes rehearsal for variation, all the way to 11 o'clock. Then we have lunch. Then in the afternoon we'll have a normal schooling until around evening time. We will have another practice and homework type of class at night. So everyone stay in the school.
Chinese dance, you're such a graceful, elegant ballerina. Was classical Chinese dance a part of your training there as well?
Yes, we trained the first 2 years when I joined the ballet school. Then slowly we stopped training the Chinese dance, but we learned many different styles in the Chinese folk dancing. So that was very helpful for my choreographing as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you take some of that as your voice as a choreographer? It's in you.
I would say so, yes. I wouldn't necessarily using the Chinese folk dancing when I'm choreographing, but a lot of movements coming from seems it's in my body where I have learned in China.
Yes. I was so lucky for one of my years to have a Chinese dance teacher, Carol Kuo, and I learned the Chinese peacock dance. And I love the way the hands are very exact, and the fingers, and we had to wear the long fingernails. And it's just very beautiful. And I see your grace and your beautiful arms and approach to things. And I just was curious about that training. And how old were you when you came to the US? And how did you manage so young with, I think when you came, were you fluent in English, or you didn't have English yet when you moved to the United States?
No, I didn't speak any English when I first came. I was literally just turned 18. So when I graduated from Shanghai Ballet School, I sent my resume to ABT, not knowing that they will ever write back to me. I just happened to wanted to reach out and to see what happened.
And you
Then
had won several competitions at that point, correct? Can you share with us your, uh,
yes, I was very fortunate being selected one of the dancers in the school to compete at the Prix de Lausanne, Finland, Helsinki, and Paris international ballet competitions. And Prix de Lausanne was my very first international ballet competition. That competition actually literally changed my life, and it was my turning point as a dancer. Uh, at the time, I was age 16.
wow.
Yeah. Um, I think at the time for me, that travel to international was pretty rare when I was, in living in China. So to have such an opportunity travel internationally, it was so incredible experience for me. And I somehow wasn't focusing on the competition part. I just wanted to see so much. So I focused on just wanted to experience this amazing journey for this competition and to see um, dancers from all over the world coming together and all the talented dancers. So it was an amazing experience, and also winning to recognize my talent, to know that okay, I'm good enough. I can be a professional dancer. So that was an amazing experience. And from then, I knew that I wanted to experience as a professional dancer in the West. So yeah, so when I got the letter from at the time ABT Studio Company's director John Meehan sent me an email and said we have one position for the studio company. Would you like to come? I was so thrilled to see that email, and of course my uncle had to translate the whole email for me.
And how did you stay being so young, and New York City is a very distracting city. How did you stay so focused on what you needed to do, and what was it like in the company environment?
I would say being a ballet dancer, the 7 years of training, one thing I have learned is discipline. So
Yes.
when I came to America, to New York, I was very excited to see the city, but at the same time, I was very focused on whatever was given, the schedule that ABT had for me. And we have a very busy schedule as well
Yes.
with ABT. So that schedule helped me to keep it focusing. And I just was so inspired. I was so inspired to see so many incredible dancers when I first joined the company, like Angel Corella, Julie Kent,
Yes.
Nina, um, Malakoff.
Megastars.
Yeah. So it was somehow easy for me to stay focused.
New York City is a big melting pot of many different people from everywhere. But did you have like a family that you were able to stay with to help you get adjusted to this new life? Because being 18, not having much English, it's a very brave thing to do, to come and to just begin a new life as a professional dancer here.
For the first year, I didn't have anyone that I knew, no family, no friends. But I was very lucky with the studio company. We had 12 dancers living together, and we all around the same age. So we had the same energy. Everyone was trying to teach me English at the time. So that was very helpful. Then when I joined the company, I was very fortunate. Again, I met some sponsors who were happened to be Chinese, and at the time they really helped me with my language barrier and also spending time with holidays with them. That really helped me. So I would say, as difficult as it was, at the same time along the journey, I always had people in my path to help me along the way.
You need a support group, don't you? Because ballet is a very demanding career,
It is.
and emotionally it can drain you sometimes, right? It's you need your people, whoever they may be and wherever they may be, to lean on,
Yeah,
to keep you going, right?
it's definitely important. Also, it's very important for us as dancers to be open-minded, because we are living in New York City. We have so many people here. We have so many talented people. We have people from China, from other countries. So if only if we're more open-minded, I think along the way you will meet good people to help you. Of course, sometimes you have to protect yourself, um, to stay away from the people that are not good for you. So it's also very important for us to be having that responsibility, not only focusing on dancing, but also to be open-minded um, along the way to meet these people, um, for you to have that support system.
This is an important point you said, because I I had a friend who was incredibly talented dancer, and
Mm,
came to New York and the city swallowed him up. And some of that was because he got involved with maybe the wrong friends who pulled
mm.
away from his goal. And that's also why I asked you that question, because your career and your voice as a female choreographer is a very inspiring one. And and I feel that's why I want to ask you how you keep your razor focus, because that's something that I think sometimes can pull not just dancers, but people away from their dreams, where they get overwhelmed by all the options and maybe the wrong friends. But you're saying to choose your network around you carefully. And I
Yeah,
think that's very good advice. Ballet is a silent art, but in the Chinese culture, our girls, from what I understand, it's most important to be very quiet and soft and yielding and receptive, and to have these kinds of qualities. And you have found an independent voice as also as a choreographer, as a really fantastic up and coming choreographer, which is hard for women also, because sometimes choreographers are, there's maybe more male choreographers than female. How are you finding your strong voice and you're maintaining who you are? How do you kind of combine these two ways?
that's a good question. I actually, as a ballet dancer in general, that we're not expressing ourselves through words. If we go to the studio, we practice, we usually don't talk, right? We just listen to the teacher and we might have questions afterwards, but usually doing practice, we don't talk. So I really wasn't expressive until um, around 2009. I had an injury that I couldn't dance. That injury caused me almost couldn't come back to dance again. So at the time, I realized, oh my goodness, I have so much else, so much to learn besides dancing. So that was a time that I opened myself up to learning other things such as acting, um, learning how to draw, painting, and also studying more English to be able to speak. Um, and at the same time, when ABT had a women's choreographer workshop, I signed up for that. So that was the first time when I realized, oh, I can create something through dancing, even if I can't dance. So that was a very beginning of discovering I can create something for others. Um, and later on, I realized that I always had that voice, that I always had that voice since I was 5, but I just never knew, because we're just so busy learning something. We're so busy studying. We're so busy catching up growth. Just going through my journey, talking with you, that going back to the time I had, even though it was so devastating that I had the injury, but that kind of forced me to not stay in my comfort zone, because dancing became my comfort zone, and I didn't even know that I had to speak English at the time. I was okay without able to speak perfectly English, because as long as I can understand what the choreographer wants,
Yes.
then I'm okay. So I was very comfortable in that bubble until I couldn't dance. So does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And you answer another question I had, which is a typical question now, is to ask, what would you say to inspire people who can't dance at home? We are lucky to have a home studio, but many people don't. Many people have to, stop kind of dancing at the level that they're used to. You took something very, very devastating, very difficult, and you turned it around to as a chance to open other doors for you that will now be there and part of you.
Yes.
And I think that is something that is very inspiring for dancers to learn, especially at a time where maybe you don't have access to your studio or the stage, but to like learn other skills.
Mhm.
Because as dancers, unfortunately, our career time is not as long as other fields, but the more you bring into it, you can take with you. And
Yes.
is this during this time when you were recovering? Was it injury on your ankle? Was that it happened one day in rehearsal? And
It happened one day in rehearsal. It's literally 1 week before the mass season.
oh,
So I was super in shape. I was super excited.
yeah,
I did one variation rehearsal towards the end of the day. And I guess my ankle, the tendon just ripped on its own.
did you know right at the moment when it happened that it was,
I had no idea.
you
I
didn't?
thought I just dreamed it.
Yeah,
It I didn't think it was serious until literally 3 weeks later because it wasn't healing. I was resting, but it wasn't healing.
yeah,
Then my therapist said maybe you should get a ultrasound. So we did the ultrasound and then showed I torn two tendons on my ankle. So one of them were very major, and the doctor told me that well, we have to do a surgery immediately. And keep in mind, since it's a very major injury, you have to keep in mind that you might not gonna be able to come back dance again. So it was definitely a very devastating time for me to hear that. Um, but I not that it was easy transition to learn other things. It would just come to time from not able to move for 6 months. I had a cast for 6 months, and all this time gone by, I just have to surrender myself that okay, if never gonna dance again, what I'm gonna do? What can I do? Then I realized, wow, I'm in New York City. There's so much I can catch up to. We can see Broadways every night. We can catch up seeing other performance from other companies, and studying other things. So that was a new excitement for me. Uh,
yes,
they say one door closed, another door open.
amen. That's
Yeah.
right. I have
So
my plaque up there that says that. I always look at that when difficult times come because
mhm.
it's not easy these days. You think one dream is your destiny, and then circumstances just have its way of saying, no, do this right now.
I didn't want to stay sad or I didn't want to stay bitter because life is about constant moving forward. So if you can dance, I had to take whatever I had, what I have learned from dancing to my next best thing, right? So in a way, I have realized dancing helped me to learn English faster or helped me to be able to act. Dancing helped me to be able to paint.
Yes.
That the vision I had and choreographing, the vision I'm having wasn't just because I'm talented. It's also because everything I've learned, I've put my work into the learning of ballet that
Yeah.
helped to serve to be a better artist, to learn other things.
Yes. No, it's interesting you say that because some people become choreographers purely from what we know in the studio. But when you look at Balanchine and how his inspiration, he would go to art museums and he would take life and bring it into his work and his choreography. I think the main thing of a choreographer is you want to touch people, maybe even people who are not dance people, but just people to feel what you're expressing. And I think by you drawing from life and from all you see around you and expanding yourself, that gives you a very strong voice and one that many people can understand and relate to. And you at the point you had the injury, were you were in the ABT company as you were a soloist at that point?
I was still in the quarter ballet at the time.
Can you tell me about the day that they promoted you as soloist? When was that, and what was that moment like?
It was an incredible feeling when I got promoted. When Kevin McKenzie announced my name as a soloist, literally, I was completely shocked because at that time, it was 2018. I was already being in the quarter ballet for more than 10 years. I believe I was one of the oldest, I wouldn't say oldest, but longest quarter ballet member. And usually that doesn't happen. That usually that you accept that, okay, am I never gonna be promoted? It's okay. But when Kevin announced my name, the whole entire company, we were all sitting on the floor. Everyone stood up and they started to clapping for me. And it just so overwhelming that I couldn't do anything but cry. And I have seen my colleagues cry for me, and it was just so incredible. Not only I enjoyed that very moment being promoted, but also seeing how inspiring the moment was to other fellow dancers, and people were crying for me, and that realizing it's a very important moment, not only for myself but for a dancer's journey.
You had come back from this injury and all of that,
Yeah.
and that moment must have been very, very significant for just so many reasons.
Yes, it was.
Tell me about your journey as a mom.
As a mom, I'm sure you very know the experience, how hard it is as just being a mother, especially new mom who never had any experience. Above all, and also being a ballerina, to balance the both is very challenging. But I do have to say, from the past, I would say more than 5 years, I have seen more and more ballerinas having babies and
Yes.
still coming back and so strong, coming back dancing better than ever, and bring their child to the ballet world and introduce them to the world of ballet.
Yes.
And it's such an inspiring way to have as a ballerina. So it kind of gave me that inspiration, having a family, having a child. How can I be an amazing mom at the same time amazing ballerina?
Yes.
And the responsibility I have for my child, even though my baby girl is only 2.5 months.
Wow.
But I can't wait. I can't wait to once everything is open to bring her to the ballet theater.
What does baby Zia like to do best?
That's a very good question. So for her, she's only 2.5 months old. She loves watching people. So every time if she sees faces on the phone or watching TV, if she sees faces, she will try to connect. And now she started doing voices, so she will try to talk to whoever she sees, and that's super cute.
Okay. And I think you worked with my student Anna Greenberg a few years.
Yes.
Anna started with me when she was like 3, and I always thought Camila looks a little bit like her, doesn't she? Well, maybe when she was younger.
Oh my goodness, I love Anna. She's a beautiful dancer.
She's a good girl. She's a good girl. She was so excited to have the opportunity to learn your choreography.
Yeah, turn you back. So, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4 and 5. Good. 6 and 7 and 8. Fifth position. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Développé. And 7 and 8.
And if your little girl wanted to grow up and be a ballerina, what advice would you give her?
I would say follow your heart and don't let whatever outside voice to stop what you believe in you. Always follow what you have inside of you, because that's the only thing that separates us, right? Make us unique. And follow that and believing whatever what you have inside of you is gonna make yourself a special ballerina.